I think the land use issue is the biggest tool I would imagine council has to affect the supply.
It's the biggest bang for your buck because
Yeah.
it doesn't cost any money to change an ordinance.
Right. It doesn't cost money. You're unlocking areas of the city and adding more density, and then private enterprise foots the bill. Developers come in and do what they do. And I think the idea that the city themselves, right, taxpayers, will be the ones to alleviate the inventory supply issue is kind of crazy. Like, how would the city build enough units themselves to alleviate this insane demand we have? That's not possible, right? Don't you have to have developers, private enterprises make this up?
It's everything. It's a complex problem, and it requires complex solutions and multifaceted solutions. And I think in terms of what has the broadest impact and the greatest scope, it's obviously the land use decisions. The question about dollars is really, what is the biggest bang for the buck? Through the pandemic, the focus was keeping people in their homes. It was housing stabilization, rental assistance. But moving forward, that's going to shift a little bit more into some of the comments and some of the discussion that was had on Thursday, which is what are we doing for homeowners? How are we making sure that there's actually a broader focus and that we're not just pushing money out the door as quickly as possible to pay for people's rent bills?
That makes sense. So why are we here? It says on the first slide of this affordable housing workshop deck, 90,000 people have moved to Tampa. Is that the city? Since 2010?
Municipal boundaries, yeah.
How's that real? 90,000 people in 13 years?
Yeah, it's incredible. It's really incredible. 20,000 people alone within walking distance of the streetcar.
Wow.
Yeah.
So a lot of the 90,000 is in the urban core.
Not. I wouldn't say a lot of it, but a good chunk of it is definitely in the downtown core because that's where
25% or more.
Yeah,
right?
and that's
based on that.
and that was what the plan says. That's where the plan says growth should go is downtown, West Shore, and in the university area too.
I think it's what people our age and younger want, and maybe even a little older, like kind of our generations want. We don't, in general, want that suburban lifestyle. We don't want to be stuck in a car for 2 hours on a commute every day. It's true. Like people want to live in a city, an urban, walkable environment. I think that's why a lot of these newer projects, like Water Street, I'm sure Gas Works, Armature Works, a lot, and even Midtown Tampa. That's why they're so popular. That's where people want to live. People want to walk downstairs and go to a grocery store. They don't want to get in a car every time they need milk and eggs. So it makes sense that those areas that are already dense are the ones that are receiving the most population increase. That makes sense to me. Only $2 million from the general fund to housing. Has that number shifted since 2020?
It has shifted as of late. So one of the impetus of the workshop was having a conversation about how to direct new funding, new general fund revenue, which is something that City Council needs to weigh in on and really sort of be a leader in determining.
Yeah, because they're the ones that control where the money's directed, correct?
It is controlled by the administration and by City Council.
By both of those entities, the mayor and City Council. Goal of preserving or creating 10,000 units. What's Alan Clendenin? How do you say his last name?
Clendenin.
Clendenin. Okay, Alan Clendenin. He, I think verbatim, said that 10,000 number is bullshit. I think that's what he said verbatim. He kind of had a good point where it's like, that is so many units. I think what he was referring to is the city creating those units. I don't think it's bullshit because I think between the private sector and the city, you could certainly achieve that. Where does the 10,000 number come from? Is that the mayor? Is she the one that's giving you that directive?
So in the new administration's sort of when it came into the scene, one of the first things that was done was the creation of advisory teams focused on different topics. There was an advisory team for transportation, an advisory team for development and housing, and the housing focus really just sort of a spitball. That team of experts came together and supported this 10,000 unit number as a starting point, as a stepping stone, because no data existed. So since that time, we've rolled up our sleeves and put together a really robust summary of what the housing needs are using data from the census, data from third party entities, and have refined that to be more specific. And that's where the big 26,000 unit number comes from, is actual empirical data that we produced through this assessment.
We're short 26,000 units, essentially.
26,000 units specifically in terms of households earning up to half of the area median income. So 50% of the area median income, we're short 26,000.
And that's 90,000 people have moved since 2010, with a whole lot more on the way in the next 15 years.
Yeah.
So really the 10,000 unit number doesn't get us really even close to the number of units we need to add to the supply to truly get to a point where we're in a good spot.
It goes back to the adage of every great city in the world has a traffic problem, a parking problem, and an affordability problem. But they make different choices, and they make specific investment decisions to make it easier for the most vulnerable. And that's what we're focused on doing with this.
Fiscal year 24, we have more than a 10x increase in our local allocation to housing. So there's more money to be spent on this issue.
Yes.
Is that through the budget that City Council has already passed?
Yes.
Great.
Yes.
That's a good step. So there's more money. Now, the money is used for studies, like you mentioned, for more staff, for units themselves. What is this money used for exactly?
It goes into programs to support renters, programs to support homeowners, and then the creation and preservation of units, which can mean a variety of different things, anything from land acquisition to actually converting properties.
And then a 10x increase is massive. Was a lot of that money taken from transportation? Because we mentioned before that the narrative and the public ambition has kind of shifted towards this affordable housing issue versus transportation.
No, the transportation, generally speaking, is funded through the gas tax that you pay at the pump. That trickles down. The city does not get all of that, but it trickles down, and there is a sort of perpetual allocation that comes in every year just to fund transportation. It's not a lot of money. It's like $10 million, I think. Sounds like a lot, but when you try to actually repave roads more than once every 70 years, the money dries up pretty quickly.
Wasn't that our plan? Wasn't it every 70 years? Like that was like the literal.
That was the plan by default.
Right. On the books, like, hey,
because
every 70 years.
that's all we could afford.
Crazy. I know that's improved though. What is it, like every 25 now?
It's still pretty low because the funding hasn't changed.
Oh, Lord. So how much money are we talking about? We have more than 10x increase. What is the allocation towards housing?
I think it's going to be somewhere around $50 to $60 million just for the first year.
Sounds great.
Yeah.
DEO staff to implement coordinated land use and programmatic changes. Now, this is what we're talking about in terms of changing zoning, right? Future land use.
Right.
That's where all that comes into play. Whew, wow. Well, I think the good news is you guys have money to do what you need to do to at least take the first steps.
It's great news.
Yeah, 10x increase is kind of incredible. If you enjoyed this clip, click here for the full episode and make sure to subscribe. Thank you guys for watching.